Let me start off by saying I saw The Whale a month ago at the Venice Film Festival and I can't stop thinking about it. I suspect the movie will not be present in the cinemas until winter, early 2023. It's an A24 production that has, in my opinion, quite a limited appeal due to its subject matter, but of course I may be wrong about that. The Whale is Aronofsky's 8th feature film and it features Brendan Fraser in the leading role. The story of a 600-pound English teacher, even on paper, sounds like a perfect material for the director, as he's dealt with so many tough themes and complicated characters in the past. This is a spoiler-free territory, as I do not intend to reveal any major details about the story. I would say The Whale is Aronofsky's most simplistic film. It feels like going back to the roots that was pie, but in a completely different meaning. What stands out about the movie, in terms of his whole filmography, is the fact that it takes place in one apartment only. Basically, the story centers around a guy who's in his early 40s. He's extremely overweight and eating is his coping mechanism, as, well, he's quite literally eating away the pain. He has dealt with a lot of pain in his life, mostly due to the fact that he left his wife and a now teenage daughter for another person. He feels a lot of shame and remorse because of that. He lost contact with his daughter and we meet him in the moment where he wants to reconciliate. His condition is slowly getting worse and even his nurse is warning him this may lead to his end if he doesn't react immediately. The problem is our main character refuses to go to the hospital. I'm not sure if it was directly said in the movie, but it was implied that he never leaves the house because he's afraid to show his body to anyone except for a trusted nurse who's taking care of him. There's a great scene with a pizza delivery guy that speaks volumes about the situation, and it's possibly my favorite scene in the movie. Charlie, because that's his name, is conducting online classes, which is very important to the story. Why, you would ask? Because he doesn't show himself on camera and has convinced his students that this is due to a technical problem with his computer. Charlie's sex life is limited to online porn. He gets a heart attack during one of his masturbating sessions, while an onlooker visits his house to convince him to join the religious organization. This heart attack is what kicks off the story, and later we find out what is the truth behind Thomas's visit. We also meet Charlie's daughter, a passive-aggressive teenager played by Sadie Sink. It's an extremely difficult part because Ellie is just not very likable. She's clearly closed off and deeply hurt, seems to be taken aback as to why Charlie suddenly wants to keep in touch with her. She acts cruel and completely disregards her father's feelings. She even makes fun of his body and does not shy away from criticizing it. As an audience member, we identify or at least support Charlie, the purest of pure souls. He's kind, warm, and has a sense of humor. He's perfectly aware of his body limitations. Definitely isn't playing a victim card. His natural charm and wit is what attracts us to the character. That's why casting Brendan Fraser in the part was such a great idea. Not only is he loved for his many performances as an action hero back in the day, he's also an ultimate underdog story. His career slowed down drastically after accidents on set of The Mummy 3. He was also sexually assaulted in the early 2000s and got a horrible divorce settlement he was not able to pay. In a way, Fraser is Charlie, just like Mickey Rourke was the wrestler. It's another one of those perfect Aronofsky's casting decisions. Most leading actors played their best parts in his movies, and this case, trust me, is no different. It is a performance of a lifetime. He's able to express 1,000 emotions with his eyes. It's delightful to see that, yes, we can have heroes like that in contemporary cinema, completely devoid of cynicism and truly selfless. It was hard for me to identify with Sadie Sink's character for the reasons I mentioned earlier, but she gives a brave performance. There is this fine, I wasn't really smitten with anyone's interpretation in particular. In terms of cinematography, there's a lot of yellowish hues in the film. As mentioned earlier, we are limited to one apartment, so the DP, the genius Matthew Libatic, had to figure out how to portray it correctly. The visual aspect is in line with main character's stagnant, sedentary life. There's not much movement, no fast tracking shots, or any visual flares that you might have expected from Libatic, most known for his work with Aronofsky in Requiem for a Dream, A Star is Born, and recent Don't Worry Darling. I really enjoyed the original score that highlighted most poignant moments in the film, especially the ending. By the final scene, there were two women crying behind me and desperately trying to grasp for air. It's highly possible the movie will start some debates in the media. I suspect it may be called fatphobic. The problem is that it isn't. I was wondering if Aronofsky was going to include binge-eating session scenes. He did. However, there was nothing sensationalized about them. The title Whale is not really referring to Charlie himself, but more to the character from his favorite book, Moby Dick. The book is a very important piece of the plot. Charlie is Moby Dick, but not because of his weight, but because he's just as trapped as this beautiful wild animal and equally unhappy in his life. What I loved about this character is that he takes full responsibility with what happened to his family, but it doesn't stop him from trying to fix the situation. I do have some criticism though, and I have to mention it. Aronofsky consciously chose to shoot in one place early on in the production process. As much as I understand his decision, after all, his film is based on a play, this also led to many limitations. We hear a lot about characters' backstories, but it's mentioned in the dialogues only. And we all know showing is just more effective than telling. So, from a storytelling standpoint, the script is not extremely well crafted. There's simply too much talking and not enough showing and feeling. The movie does not fall apart solely because of Fraser's acting ability. We root for his character come what may. For me, it was a very emotional watch for a couple of reasons. First, I wrote my bachelor's degree thesis about Darren Aronofsky and a few of his films. Second, I always enjoy stories with a strong family theme, and some of the scenes just crushed me. There's a lot of conflict and turbulent discussions or shouting matches in this one, and it's tough. It's tough to watch it. I'm wondering about the critical reception of the movie. I think it's going to start interesting discussions about the nature of religion, what meaning religion has in one's life. However, the subject was not explored enough. Personally, I think it was just glossing the surface. Charlie is an interesting character because he's very idealistic and he wants to suffer for his sins. I think that should have been explored more. Director mostly focused on the father-daughter relationship, and Brendan Fraser portrays that part perfectly. He's just giving a riveting performance, extremely heartbreaking. So do not expect it to be a very cheerful movie. It very much is an Aronofsky film, so you shouldn't expect a happy ending from that story. The characters kind of participate in their own demise. As much as it's a sad film, there's some truth about relationships in the story. I think that's why it was so interesting to Aronofsky to show this story as a film, not only as a stage play. So it's not a perfect film, as mentioned, but it's a recommended watch. I think it's going to appeal to everyone who's been interested in the cinema of Darren Aronofsky, and also to those who are Fraser fans. He's just amazing. It's an amazing portrayal, and I seriously hope he's going to get all the awards in the world.